Bruce Arthur of the Toronto Star here on the Rich Eisen Show. What would this mean, Bruce? I mean, it's been since the 66-67 season for the Leafs to bring home the cup. And it's been 20-some-odd years, 26 years since the Cito Gaston Whamco Blue Jays brought the World Series trophy to Toronto. What would this mean if it actually happens?
It's kind of crazy to say this. This would be the first major championship in Toronto sports, and I'm not including Major League Soccer or the CFL, in the internet era, right? Like, because 93, Joe Carter hits the home run. No one's tweeting about that.
That's right.
It's like that's on YouTube now, but only after the fact.
Right.
This has the potential. I mean, for basketball in Canada, it takes it up 100 notches, right? Like it just pushes it across the country, and it gives everyone a memory, right? A shared memory. It already kind of has, but if you get a championship, it's a different thing entirely. I don't know if it matters for Kawhi, and maybe it does. Maybe he can't. Maybe he wins a championship, he can't walk away. That would be enormous for the franchise. That has huge domino effects. And for the city, this city's seen some really awful things, man. In terms of sports, like it's been a really tough run. The Leafs haven't been in a Stanley Cup final since they had more than 6 teams. Like they had 6 teams in the NHL in 1967. As soon as they expanded, the Leafs never got there again. So this is a town that has been relentlessly incompetent when it comes to sports. And the Jays had a brief window. The Leafs are in a bit of a beginning of a window now. If the Raptors win a title, the city's been waiting for something like this for a long time, and I think it'll just explode.
What about the entire country, though, Bruce? I mean, are there still people, like I guess in Montreal, who are rooting against them, Warriors fans, just out of spite? I mean, I'm always interested in sports spite. Is there any still?
Oh, there is that dynamic in this country. You are raised to not like Toronto because it thinks it's so great if you live in the rest of Canada. Absolutely. It's an arrogant town. It's referred to itself as the center of the universe. But I think what's happening with the Jays, like it happened with the Jays when they won a title, and I think it's happening with the Raptors now, is at some point some teams can cross over into the bloodstream and become something that's kind of pan-Canadian beyond just Toronto. And I think anecdotally that seems to be happening for the Raptors. And you see it in TV ratings. They went over 3 million for Game 6 against Milwaukee. To put that in perspective, you guys in America have about 10 people for every one that we have. So that's like a 30 million person audience, the equivalent of. That's something they've never done before. And people are starting to watch. People are starting to get this. Basketball came from a long ways back in this country. Like when we got NBA teams, people had to explain the rules for 5 years. And where we are now is a sport that anyone can play, that's being played more across the country than there ever was. We have more NBA players in this country than we've ever had. It's growing. We're now becoming a basketball country is how I would describe it. And this would be a big step in pushing it up a notch, a 2, who knows what. Last
one for you, Bruce. Which player from the early days of the Raptors would you be thinking of if the Raptors pull this off? Which person would you be thinking of from the early days or throughout that be, you know what, this would have been neat if said player was part of this team, et cetera?
Oh, that's a really interesting question because, I mean, the history is so undistinguished, right? Like, to me, there's people who have been a part of the organization who aren't a part of it anymore, who I wish were still here. Like Jim LeBombard was a PR guy for 20 years, best PR guy in the league, and he left last year. He went to the NBA, and he missed out on this. In terms of players, a guy like Jose Calderon is someone who's still beloved in this town, a guy that people loved. I wish Chris Bosh, who's here doing TV during the finals, I wish he could have stayed and had a better career here. I mean, he went to Miami and it was great, and he had a tragic end to his career in terms of the blood clots. I wish they could have done something better for a player like that. A lot of people are going to think about Vince. And Vince, because Vince is still the most powerful emotional touchstone in the history of this franchise in terms of people who love him and hate him, still to this day. I wonder if this is enough to eclipse Vince, to be something bigger than something we lost as a kind of city, as a fan base, for the franchise. I think it could be, even if Kawhi walks, because they will have created something, win or lose in this final. They've created something that people will remember forever. And that's, if you're a sports fan, that's all you can really ask for from your franchise, right?
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.